So welcome everyone to the webinar today. So my name is Sean. I will be the host of the webinar, and with me is Zach, who, like I mentioned, will be the co-host today. So any questions you have, definitely use the Q&A, and our co-host Zach will work on answering those questions as we proceed through the webinar. So as I mentioned, today's webinar will be the beginner club executive training on the district. So one thing I do want to mention before we get into it is that this webinar will be focused on the district version. So if your club does have the club version of Club Runner, you can certainly do all of the things that we are going to cover today through the club version. But in this specific webinar, we will not be covering the club version. We will be covering the district version. So just keep that in mind. We do have, if you look at our training page on our Club Runner website, we do have a webinar specifically for the club version. So with that being said, some things that we will be going over today. So we'll be looking at how to log in and get access into the district. We're going to look at managing the club executives. So that includes adding, editing, and removing the club executives. We're going to look at managing members. So adding, terminating, and transferring members. We're going to review editing the club information, as well as we're going to have a quick overview of RI integration. So first thing we need to talk about is, of course, logging in to the district. So here we have our district website, and on the very top right, you'll see there is a member login link. So we'll go ahead and click on that. And once we click on that, we are taken to the login page where we can enter in our username and password. But before we do that, I do want to mention that if you're not sure of your login name or your password, you can certainly click, forgot username or forgot password. We'll go ahead and click on that. And you can retrieve your login information. So because we are working through the district version here, we will have to first select our club. We'll enter in our last name and our email address. And what the system will do is it'll send me an email with instructions on how to reset the password. So if you're not sure of your login information, you can definitely use this page to retrieve that information. One other note is that if your club does have the club version of Club Runner, the login information at the club's district will be the same that you use at the club. So you can use the same login for both the district and the club. Of course, if you have if your club uses the club version of Club Runner. So we'll go ahead and log in. So I do have the username populated already here, as well as the password. So I'm going to go ahead and click login. And once you log in, you'll notice you are redirected back to the website. But you'll notice if you go to the very top right, we have our name here, and we also have an option for member area as well as logout. So let's go ahead and click member area to go into that members only section. And once you go into the member area, you can see our new admin dashboards here. So first thing we are going to take a look at are the club executives. So in order to do that through the district, we will have to go to this For Clubs tab. So I'll go ahead and click on that. And before we go further, I do want to mention that this For Clubs tab is specific to the district version. So like I said, if you are logging in through the club version, that is different. It will look different. You won't have this For Clubs tab, but if you are logging in through the district, you will have this For Clubs tab. Another thing I do want to mention is that if you notice that a lot of these options on the gray menu bar are grayed out, that means you don't have access to them. So for this For Clubs tab, a lot of these options that we see in the gray menu bar are accessible for club executives. So that does include immediate past executives, current executives, and the incoming executives. So make sure you are correctly defined as an executive in order to access these items in the For Clubs tab. So like I mentioned, first thing we are going to take a look at is the club executive. So we'll go ahead and click the For Clubs tab, and we'll click on the Define Club Executive link on the menu bar directly below. And you can see here, this is the current year, so 2021-22, and we have all of our positions defined. If we go over to the next year, we'll see, actually, let's clear this out. Pardon me, just want to show you here. Okay, let's go back to the previous year here. Okay, perfect. So we just cleared out all of the positions that we had for the upcoming year. And the reason why we did that is because I wanted to show you the first option that we'll take a look at, and that's the carryover to the next year. So as we can see, we are on the current year. It's 2021-2022, and we have all of these positions defined and set. And on the right side here, we have the carryover next year button. So I'll go ahead and click on that, and we'll take a look and see what it does. So you can see we have the confirmation that the carryover was successful. And I'm going to go ahead and click on next year. And you can see that before it was blank, and now we have all of those positions set up. So we have the positions here. We don't have the members assigned to those positions. So that's good. It's a fresh slate for us to go in and properly assign the members to their correct positions. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we assign a member to a position. So we'll go ahead and click Edit here on the President position. And you can see here we can change the position, the title. We'll leave those as is. And we also have a drop down here for name. So this is going to be a list of all of the members. So I'll go ahead and click Sue. We want Sue to be the president. And we'll go ahead and click Save. And you can see the confirmation up at the top that the update was successful, and we do see Sue here listed as the president. Another thing you could do is if there is a position that you need to set up that is not already set up here, you can use the Add New Position option. So I'm going to go ahead and click the button here on the right that says Add New Position. And on the position dropdown, we'll go ahead and select a position. So let's go ahead and select Vice President. And since we are selecting Vice President, it's a good time to note RI integration. So throughout the webinar, I will be talking about RI integration, and we will cover that a little bit later on. But one thing I do want to note with the club executives is that Rotary only tracks certain positions. So you can have a lot of positions set in Club Runner, but not all of them will synchronize up to Rotary International. Only the positions that Rotary tracks will be synchronized up to Rotary International. So I mentioned that because Vice President is not something that Rotary tracks. So if we did have the integration enabled here, this would not synchronize up to Rotary International, again, because they don't track Vice President. So just keep that in mind. So now we've selected Vice President. Title is auto-populated here, which is great. And we'll go ahead and select a member. So let's select a member here and go ahead and click Save. And we can see now that I've saved it, that our Vice President position is now available, and we do have the member assigned to that position. Now you'll notice here under Actions, we have two options. We have Clear and we have Delete. So the Clear option will allow you to clear the member from that position, but it will still retain that position. So let's go ahead and click Clear for the president and see how that works. It'll ask you to confirm, so go ahead and click OK. And you'll see now that the president position is still available, but the name has been cleared out. Now, the difference between clear and delete is that the delete will actually remove that position entirely. So if I go ahead and delete this Vice President position that I just created. And again, it'll ask you to confirm. So we're going to go ahead and click OK. And you can see we are now back to an empty state here, and we don't have the vice president listed at all. And of course, if you wanted to go back and add it again, you could do it through that add new position option. So that's how you manage the club executives through the district. Next item we will talk about is managing the membership. So you can do that through the district. Again, that will be under the For Clubs tab here up at the top. And we're going to go ahead and click on Membership Lists from the gray menu bar directly below. And once that is selected, you'll see a list of all of your active members. So first thing we'll take a look at is adding a brand new member. So let's go ahead and click on the Add New Member button on the right here. Okay, perfect. And that will bring up our Add New Member page where we can fill out all of this information. So let's go ahead and add a brand new member. So first, we're going to set the membership type. We'll just leave it as active. You can select a sponsor. That's just a drop down of the members. I have the option here to enter the Rotary member number as well as the date joined club. And the one option that I do want to highlight here is the integration option. So because this is just a test account, we don't have RI integration enabled. But if you do have RI integration enabled, you will be able to select this option, report this new member to Rotary International, and then that will try to synchronize that up to RI. So there is the integration options there. So if we go down a little bit further, we have the member details. So let's just add some information. Perfect. So we're just going through and filling out the member details and the address. Of course, with the address, you have the option to set the home address or the work address. We'll just leave this as the home address. And if we scroll down to the bottom here, we have the Club Runner account section. So it does by default generate the username here, which is just first name dot last name and then dot the Club Runner ID. And then we do have the temporary password generated as well. And at the bottom here, we have the option to send the email notification to the member, and we can select which template to use. For now, we'll just go ahead and leave that disabled, and we'll go ahead and click Add Member. Leave that. Perfect. And once the member is added, you can see we are taken back to the member profile here, and we can see all of the information that we just entered. So now that we've added the member, let's go back to the active member list. So again, we're going to click on the For Clubs tab up on the light blue menu bar near the top, and we're going to click Membership Lists on the menu bar directly below. And now that we're back to the active member list and the member was successfully added, let's just take a look and confirm. So we have some options up here to filter by the last name. So if I click W, since I put in the last name as webinar, we can see here, there's the record that I just created. So if we wanted to go ahead and terminate this, this member, we can do that from here by selecting the Change Status link. So I'll go ahead and click on Change Status. And once we click on that, we do have a few different options. The option we want to click is Terminate Membership. And once we click on that, we have a few different options here. So we have X member as of, so that's the termination date. We'll leave that as today. We have the reason for termination. So we have a list here that you can select. So we'll just select a random one here. And at the bottom here, we do have, again, that RI integration option. So we're going to leave this as do not report. Again, this is just a test account, so we don't have RI integration enabled. But if you do, you can certainly report the termination to Rotary International and have that synchronized up to Rotary. So now that we have that filled, we can go ahead and click Terminate Member. And with that, we are redirected back to the active member list, and we can see that the member that we just terminated is no longer available here. And just to confirm, on the left-hand side, we have our active member list, other user list, and we also have inactive member list. So we'll go ahead and click inactive member list. And let's just filter here. And we see there's the record that we just terminated. Just as a note, since we are here, if there is a member that was previously part of the club and they are joining the club again, we can reactivate them. So if we go to change status from the inactive member list, we can use the activate membership option. And it'll just ask you for the date joined club and the date joined Rotary. So you do have that option as well. That's just a note if there was a member that left for a bit and decided to come back. You don't have to go in and add their information again. You do have that option to just reactivate from the inactive member list. So let's go back to the active member list. We'll just change this to all. And the last item that I do want to mention here is the transfer new member option. So I'm going to go ahead and click on transfer new member. And you'll notice that right now, because we are on a test account, it will display a blank page. So because we don't have the RI integration set up, we don't have access to this page, but we do have a knowledge base article called How Do I Find and Transfer New Members? So let's just take a quick look at this article just to see what it would look like when we are transferring a member. So first step is, of course, you have to click the transfer new member button, which is what we clicked. And instead of getting that blank screen, if you do have the integration set up, we will see something like this. So we have 3 search by options. You can search by Rotary ID, email, or name and country. And of course, depending on what you select up here, you'll have different options in the search values to enter the data. So in this case, we just select the Rotary ID and we enter in the Rotary ID into the search value. And then we click this blue search button. And once we click the search button, it'll check the Rotary database and find the member with that specific Rotary ID. And once that is found, you can use that add member link. And what that'll do is that will redirect you back to the add new member page that we just saw. And it will allow you to add the member. It'll auto-populate a lot of the fields for you. One thing I do want to mention with the transfer is that Rotary International requires that members can only be active in a single Rotary club at any given time. So when you are transferring, if you want to make sure that it does transfer correctly through Rotary International, you do have to make sure that the member is terminated from the previous club first, and then added to the new club. And you do have to make sure that the date joined new club is after the date terminated from the previous club. So do keep that in mind when you are transferring. The member does have to be terminated from the previous club in order for that transfer to be completed through Rotary International successfully. So that covers the membership management. Next, we will talk about the next item that we have here in the For Clubs tab, and that's the club information. So we'll go ahead and click Edit Club Information. And on this page, you can see we have an overview of the club. And if we scroll down, we have the club executives, the president. If we click this button, we'll be taken back to that executives and directors page, which we saw earlier. But we want to take a look at this button here, Edit Club Info Online. So we'll go ahead and click on that. And once that loads, we see we have all of our club information here. So we have club details, the contact information, the meetings, and we also have a setting down here that allows us to hide the member photos from the public. That's for things like executive listings and things like that. So let's take a quick look at the edit option. So for club details, we can go ahead and click edit. And we'll see all of our basic details for the club, things like the club name, short name, as well as the club ID here, and the club type, all that information we can edit here. If we scroll down to contact info, we'll go ahead and click edit. And you can see we have the mailing address and the contact details. And you'll also notice that there's this icon here next to contact details, as well as the mailing address. And if we scroll down here, that symbol indicates that the information is integrated with Rotary International. So when you see this symbol here, that indicates that this information, when you save it, will try to synchronize up to Rotary International, of course, if you have that set up accordingly. Lastly, we do have the meeting section here, so we'll go ahead and click edit. And again, we do see this symbol here. So this information does synchronize up to Rotary International. So if we can scroll down here, we have when the club meets. We also have a newer option here for online club meetings. So if the club still meets online, you can enable this, and it does allow you to add in some additional information, such as a Zoom link and some Zoom details. And if we scroll down, we have the meeting location as well. So if you meet in person, you can add in the address information there as well. So we'll go ahead and cancel. And the last option that we have just at the bottom, it's just the option to hide member photos from the public. So if this is enabled, it will prevent the member photos from appearing in on public pages. So things like if they're defined as an executive, we do have like a built-in club executive page. So their image will not show if this hide option is enabled. So that covers the club information. So you can manage that through the district. One other thing that I do want to quickly mention is the attendance. So this one will be in a bit of a different tab. So on the light blue menu bar near the top, if we click attendance and we click the monthly club attendance link on the gray menu bar directly below, you can see we can enter in all of our information here. So the big difference is, between the club version and the district version is the district version is more of like a high overview where you can see, attendance percentages and number of meetings, things like that. If you do have the club version with the attendance module, you can actually set up individual meetings, and you can track attendance for each individual meeting rather than on a monthly basis, which we see here. So if you are interested in learning more about the club version and in that module, definitely take a look at our other training sessions that we have running. We do have one for the club executives through the club version. So definitely take a look at the other webinars that we do have running in the upcoming weeks. And last thing I do want to mention is the RI integration. So I know throughout the webinar, we did briefly touch on it. and we talked about the different areas that synchronize up to Rotary International, but how exactly does it work? So the RI integration basically allows a club runner to interact with the Rotary International. So what I would recommend is, with the new Rotary changeover, first thing to do is make sure that you have the integration enabled. The changes that you make can synchronize up to Rotary International. So first thing I definitely recommend is making sure that that integration is enabled, as well as reviewing the privacy settings. So we don't have it on this test account again because we don't have the integration enabled, but here we go, perfect. So this is the page we'd go to. So it's under For Clubs and RI integration. You can enable it here. So we can tell that this is not enabled because this yellow box here does not have the checkbox to enable it. But first thing you can do is come into here, make sure this is enabled, and then you can also review the privacy settings. The privacy settings don't appear here because we don't have the integration enabled, but you can control things like what gets synchronized up to Rotary International. So there are those options as well. We do recommend in this specific page to enable all of the integration options because the member can actually go into their member profile. There is a privacy setting and they can opt out individually out of synchronizing certain items. So you do have that flexibility. And I know during the webinar, I did mention if you have the integration set up for updates. So it's very important to note that with RI integration, there are two different types of integration. So we can have a read or we can have an update. So the read option will allow Club Runner to read information from Rotary International, and we can pull that down to Club Runner manually. The read option will allow us to, or sorry, the update option will still allow us to read the data from Rotary International and manually pull it down. But with the update, we can also make changes in Club Runner and have the system try to synchronize that up to Rotary International. One very key point is that the flow of data is always from Club Runner to Rotary International. So for example, if I have my club has enabled the update option, I can make a change in Club Runner, say I add a brand new member and I enable the integration option. The system will try to synchronize that up to Rotary International. But if I do go into Rotary International and add the member there, it will not automatically come back down to Club Runner, even with that update integration. So the update integration allows changes from Club Runner to synchronize up to Rotary International, but not the other way around. Like I said, we can still pull the information from Rotary International, but that would be more manual through a tool that we have called the Compare and Synchronize. We don't want to get too much into the integration because we actually have some upcoming webinars that will go more in depth into how to set up the integration and kind of how it works. So if you are interested in that, like I said, definitely check out the other webinars that we have in the upcoming weeks. I do believe we actually have the advanced version of this webinar happening tomorrow. So definitely check that out. But for today, the beginner session here, that about wraps up the items that we will talk about today. So what I'm going to do is I will pass it over to my co-host here, Zach, so that he can have the 10-15 minutes of the Q&A session. So I'll pass it off to Zach here.
Hi guys, sorry about that. I was still muted. I was just getting everything ready. Sean, thanks for all of that. And just to confirm for everybody, yes, our advanced webinar is tomorrow. It's at 1 p.m. Toronto time. There are registration spots still available. So if you haven't done that, I would strongly encourage you to go sign up now. So I had some really great questions during the, or I had some really great Q&As during our presentation here. So I'm just going to get started right up at the top. One of the first questions, I have already answered some of them, and I'll talk about those, but there were some good ones. So Janine L asked, how do we know what positions Rotary International tracks? And the easiest way to actually know that would be to use the For Clubs tab and the Executive Compare and Synchronize. However, because this account is a demo account and we're not actually connected to production, like we can't connect to Rotary's production for privacy, security reasons, at least our test account can't. I can confirm the positions that are tracked are the president, the secretary, the treasurer, the Rotary Foundation chair, the membership chair, the executive secretary, the service projects chair, and the public image chair. Both the service projects chair and the public image chair are new to this Rotary year. Previously, it was just the positions I outlaid before. And it's really important to note, I think Sean touched on this a little bit. For example, when you set your president-elect in the current year, 21-22, does not automatically make them the president in the upcoming year. So especially with reintegration, if you are setting your president for the upcoming year, make sure you also, we'll take a look at the club executives. So we have our clubs well defined here. When you come into this next year, the president-elect is not defined already. So just really quickly heading back, our president-elect was Peter Parker. So in the 2022 year, we can set him. There's Peter. We'll hit save. And now if integration was turned on, Peter would be reported as the upcoming year president and get him into Rotary and all of those good things. Awesome. So moving right along, we had another question from, and I hope I'm not butchering this, Nagwa, and they asked, can members enter their own data by themselves? So once a member has been added into the system, either into the district's website or the club website, depending on which level you guys are subscribed to, yes, all of the members of the club, every single member record in your club can log into your district's website. If your club is a subscriber, they can log into both. So for here, just picking on Judith, because that's who we, just to pick on Judith here as a random example, as soon as we've added Judith to the membership, Judith can come and use that link that she got in that welcome email or the welcome email that you've sent them. They can come right in and they can start updating pretty much everything on the personal tab. They can update their biography tab. They can manage their settings and their privacy. The Rotary tab is restricted from general members to use. This can be only managed by the club. But in general, yes, members can manage almost all of their own data about themselves, and they can also, of course, manage all of their own privacy settings. Ruth S. asked, how does one find the member ID? And this is a really great question. I'll be able to actually go into this a little bit more in depth tomorrow during our advanced training session. But if you have a member who is a past Rotarian and you're certain about it and they're certain about it, absolutely, instead of using the add new member system, use the transfer new member. I can't run it here because, again, this club is not integrated to Rotary International. It's not a real club for Rotary. But if it was on this transfer member search page, I would actually be able to see, I'd have a search box and it would let me search by Rotary ID if I have it. Email address, because email addresses are unique at Rotary International. That is a surefire way to locate somebody. And we can also search by name and country. These same tools are available at the Rotary International website. We've just now been able to make them here. So if you are looking for your past Rotarians who are rejoining your club, I strongly recommend the transfer new member process because it really helps eliminate any little minor issues that can go wrong. For just as a really straightforward example, if you have someone's last name incorrect, like let's say you add an A instead of an E in their name, or you add an S when there shouldn't be, or you leave it off, in some cases that will actually create a new Rotarian because the names didn't match, instead of creating a new instead of creating a linked record. So use that transfer member search. It is a really powerful tool to both locate Rotarians that you're looking to add to your club and making sure you're not adding a duplicated record. For any reason, if you ever get into a case where you do duplicate a record, you're going to want to reach out to the My Rotary Club and District Support team, and they'll be able to help you get that sorted. Elaine M is asking, our club has 2 options for meetings. Can we list both locations? You know, Q&A, I want to answer things that I can answer, and I also want to confirm things that we can't do. So at this time, we only have support for a single meeting location and details. We are definitely looking into that more in the future, and I'll make sure that our product team has that feedback as well. All right, an anonymous attendee asked, can you add members through the club's version of Club Runner, and will that be integrated to Rotary? So really good point here, just to go over for everybody. If your district is a subscriber, you have access to manage your club through their district website. If your club is a subscriber, you can also do most of the same things that you can do at the district and more at your club's website. And when you make updates to membership or privacy settings, etc., those changes are seen immediately at the district because they're actually using the same data your club is. So it's not 2 copies of data. If I logged into the Rotary Club of Greentown club account, I would get this exact same members list. The interface and how I navigate here would be different, but the content and details would be exactly the same. All right, and I've got one more question here that I can definitely answer from Dana. Dana E asks, how to communicate to Rotary that we will have 2 co-presidents this upcoming year. Not specifically about the executive, but just to confirm that. So at this time, Rotary only allows a single individual to hold any position in the club at any point in time. So you can have John as the president for the first 6 months and Sally as the president for the next 6 months, but John and Sally both cannot be the president at the same time. Some clubs, like as a workaround, if you do have 2 people in that position and you want them both to have similar authority at Rotary, you can make that secondary person an executive secretary if you don't already have that position filled. Executive secretaries get a lot of permissions and powers, just like the president and the secretaries do. And in some cases, it's a good backup. But you should definitely talk with your club and your district more about that for how they would like you guys to handle that. All right, I think that is gonna just about cover us for today. So give me, there we go. So Sean, I'm gonna hand it right back over to you. Okay, bud?
Awesome. Thank you very much, Zach, for covering the Q&A session and answering those questions as we presented. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Hope you found the webinar helpful. Just a few notes here on the slide. We do have some information here. So if you do have any questions, definitely feel free to contact us. And if you do want to start any discussions with other Club Runner users such as yourself, please feel free to join us and join the discussion here on clubrunnercommunity.com and post there, as well as download our free mobile app from the App Store and Android Google Play Store. And of course, if you do have any, if you want to learn a little bit more about Club Runner, we do have lots of upcoming training webinars as well. So the link to the training page with all of the registration links is available down on the bottom right there. So clubrunner.com/training if you do want to register for any additional webinars. And like Zach mentioned, there will be the one coming up tomorrow, which is the advanced version of this one. One last note before I let everyone go is that once we wrap up this webinar, you will receive a poll. So please feel free to answer. There's just a few questions on how we did and some feedback. So please feel free to answer those as well. You might get through email or it might pop up on the browser after we end the session. But once again, thank you everyone for joining us today, and I hope you have a great day.